Good afternoon. My name is Gail Agrawal, and I am delighted to welcome you to the 2016 graduation ceremony for the Iowa College of Law. Today, I am joined on the platform by President Bruce Harreld, the 21st president of the University of Iowa, who joins us on his first commencement weekend as our president. Today's commencement speaker, the Honorable Thad Collins, class of 1990. And of course, by the extraordinary faculty of the Iowa College of Law. The faculty and I are especially pleased that Iowa's newest federal magistrate judge, the Honorable C.J. Williams, and a member of our adjunct faculty is with us on the stage. I also want to acknowledge Professor John Whiston, the Herschel Langdon Clinical Professor of Law, who joins us for his final commencement as a member of our full-time faculty. He will retire this summer. To John, a sincere thank you and best wishes on your next adventure from all of us who have had the great privilege of being your colleagues, your friends, and your students. He didn't know I was going to do that, and he doesn't like it. On behalf of the College of Law, I extend a special welcome and sincere congratulations to our most honored guest, the spouses and partners, the parents and grandparents, the children, the family, and the friends of today's graduates. Thank you for supporting our students through their abject terror about that first set of law school exams, for comforting them and encouraging them when things didn't go exactly the way they hoped, and for cheering with us on their truly extraordinary achievements from orientation to graduation. I know that without your unwavering support, these newly minted, soon-to-be licensed lawyers would not be here today. So graduates, give a hand to your families and your friends. Addressing the graduates in the last few fleeting moments they will spend as law school students is one of the great joys of serving as dean. This commencement exercise is literally one for our history book as the Iowa College of Law graduates its 150th class with this marvelous group of students. The College of Law, give them a hand. We'll do a lot of that. The College of Law traces its origins to March 1865. While waiting for the legislature to act on a recommendation to establish a law department here at the University of Iowa, Judge George Wright and Judge Chester Cole began teaching law students out of a Des Moines law office. I have to say there was a lot less law, or there must have been, to be learned then, because just over a year later, in November of 1866, the first class graduated. And now, you claim your well-deserved place in this proud tradition of the Iowa Law School's history. Now, I know that the small size of this class, this hat's bothering me, that the small size of this class will inevitably be a topic for discussion today, as it was when you began your law studies. But it's all relative. I want you to know that you are more than 8 times larger than the first class. You're also more gender balanced and geographically diverse than that first class, which consisted of 12 guys. You come from 28 states across the nation, from river to river across Iowa, and from 3 other nations around the world. Evidence that the Iowa College of Law of today is simultaneously for Iowa and world class. Every class has a defining trait, and for the class of 2016, the word that will always come to my mind is bold. When I welcomed you on a nice Iowa day in August 2013, 3 very short years ago, all eyes were on your small size. You matriculated at a time when the drumbeat of criticism of the legal profession and legal education seemed relentless, and the faint of heart were steering away from studying law. But like the great lawyers you will surely become, you were not deterred. In your 2L year, your number was increased by nearly a dozen international lawyers who, demonstrating their own boldness, joined us for the new advanced standing JD program, adding knowledge of their own legal systems and their worldviews to this class. From the beginning, the faculty and I were confident in you, in part because you seemed to see your path so clearly. Now, I know this is bad form, but today I cannot resist saying to anyone who ever doubted the members of this little class that could, we told you so. And I know no one in that number is in this room today. And while I'm on the things that I never get to say, I'm going to quote the legendary, if fictional, Professor Kingsfield for the very first time in my academic career. Look to your right, look to your left. We are here today to celebrate what you have accomplished together. I do have to admit that in those early days, your promise was not always on prominent display. There were some creative and wildly wrong responses to questions posed by your teachers. There was the occasional, somewhat puzzling question, what's the difference between Greenacre and Whiteacre, for example? You know who you are. More than once, the faculty and I reminded ourselves that the late Justice Antonin Scalia always said that his first-year law teachers had reorganized his brain. Surely you just needed a little bit more reorganizing. Eventually, you showed mastery of Pearson v. Post and Penoyer versus Neff. You seemed to survive the shared terror of the first oral argument in LAW2 relatively unscathed. You weren't deterred by the snow or the ice on a slippery bridge from the parking lot to BLB on the day of the dreaded property law final. And I can report that not a single tort occurred on that day. Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes said that the law is the calling of thinkers, and each of you has been called to the law. But you might remember that as I cautioned you at orientation, there's no prodigy born knowing how to think like a lawyer. With some considerable effort, you have been transformed into deeply analytical thinkers who permit no half-baked assertion, no lapse in logic by anyone, anywhere, ever, to go unidentified or unchallenged. As a dean, I congratulate you and all of your long-suffering teachers on this remarkable achievement. And to everybody in the audience who shared those law school years, my faculty, colleagues, and I today apologize for any collateral damage you may have suffered as the law student in your midst was learning to think and argue like a lawyer. I hope you agree it was worth it. As I stand here today and reflect on your singular accomplishments as a class, it seems very appropriate that you are our 150th class. This year, the Iowa Law Review earned its highest ranking ever, number 15 among English language law journals and number 14 in citation count. The Journal of Corporation Law ranked second in the specialty journals, mere tenths of a point behind number 1 Yale, and Mr. President, 25 points ahead of Harvard's Business Law Journal. This year, the trial team finished in the top 8 in the nation, eventually losing to the ultimate winning team from that school, Harvard. The national moot court team under Justice David Baker's skilled coaching emerged victorious from the regionals and headed to New York. And Professor Bohannon celebrated as the patent law team swept the regionals before heading to Washington, D.C. And although everybody in this room knows that we are actually much better than this, U.S. News reports that we are ranked number 20 among all law schools and number 6 among public law schools in the United States. What a year it has been. As President Emeritus Sandy Boyd often reminds us, it is people, not buildings, that make great institutions. And the people in this class have already done more than your part to advance an Iowa law tradition of greatness. Over the course of 3 years, the members of this small but mighty class have provided 6,867 hours of pro bono and community service. If you're doing the math, that equates to 286 days or 9.5 months. The class of 2016 already making the present and the future better for Iowans. You have given us the intellects of Jared Adam and Robert Fitzgerald, Hancher Finkbond Medallion winner Dr. Alex Lodge, the inspired student leadership of Molly McDonald and Crystal Pound, the hospitality of Jacob Klein and his hostess wife, honorary 3L, Alice. The Hawkeye pride of John Whelan, the unflagging optimism of Kwesi Atakra, and the work ethic of every member of the editorial boards of our 4 student-edited journals and the Moot Court Board. With fewer students to do the heavy lifting, you not only stayed the course, you excelled. Perhaps most significant of all, over 3 years of law school, not a single member of this class did anything to land Iowa law in the pages of Above the Law. And for that, I am really, really eternally grateful. Together, we experienced the retirement of the legendary and beloved Professor Arthur Bonfield. After 53.5 years of teaching, you are officially his last class. But he wanted me to assure you that it wasn't personal. He knew you were listening, and he knew you cared. We welcomed, it's a little insider baseball, we welcomed a seemingly endless parade of presidential candidates to our state. For a while, the line that earned a speaker the greatest applause was, "I am not running for president." And we celebrated going to the Rose Bowl, at least until the game started. Now, you would think that after all we have shared over the last 3 years, I could identify for this assembled group even one of you who has some small reluctance to leave us. But I worry that such an obvious lie in front of so many highly credible witnesses would prompt the Board of Bar Examiners to conduct a character and fitness inquiry of me. Therefore, we're going to let today's record reflect that you are apparently much more enthusiastic about leaving us than we are about seeing you go. Among you are immigrants and first-generation Americans, as well as second- and third-generation Hawkeyes. To all the lawyers, Iowa lawyers, parents and grandparents, aunts and uncles who entrusted your children to us so that they might follow in your footsteps in the law, you have paid us a high compliment, and I thank you. Others of you are like me, the first in your family to graduate from college and go on to earn a doctoral level degree. I know firsthand that your time here will change the direction of your lives. You are an extraordinary group of very soon-to-be licensed lawyers, clearly worthy of being the 150th class of this marvelous law school. I was honored to welcome you as one else, and along with the faculty, I feel very privileged to have spent these last 3 years with you. I want to thank you now for all you have done and all you will do to contribute to the great tradition of the Iowa College of Law. When I next talk to you, you'll be on the verge of becoming our newest alumni. So congratulations. And now it's time for me to relinquish the podium to one of your own. I invite Daniel J. Ollinghouse, elected Speaker of the class of 2016, to the podium.
Fold that up. Thank you, Dean. Wow. All right. Friday the 13th. I'm pumped. Whose idea was this, by the way? If you'll check under your chairs, ladies and gentlemen, there are some black cats to play with and some mirrors to break. Go ahead and get this party started. Good afternoon. I'm deeply honored that the class of 2016 has chosen me to address you all here today. I have to say that I've been to a few of these things now, so I can promise you that in return for this great honor, I'm going to keep it short and not too sappy. I want to start off by thanking the faculty and staff of the College of Law. Their hard work and dedication is just one of many reasons that Iowa Law is consistently rated one of the finest institutions in the country to obtain a legal education. Let's give them a round of applause. Then I got to make sure I say thank you to all the family, friends, and loved ones who've been our rocks during this whole law school thing. Thank you on behalf of the class of 2016. And of course, I want to recognize our guests of honor, my friends and colleagues, the class of 2016. Over the past 3 years, I've had the opportunity to work alongside with a lot of them on various projects. At the very least, I've had an opportunity to chat with them. And I got to say that I've never encountered a more impressive or intimidating group of folks in my life. We might be the smallest Iowa law class since the 1800s, but our little cadre packs a punch. For example, we've got people who served in AmeriCorps, Teach for America, and the Peace Corps. We've got service industry professionals like myself, and members of our military. We've got PhDs, doctors, master's degree holders, engineers, CPAs, and folks who left successful careers before coming to Iowa to get their JDs. In some ways, the lives we led before law school faded away when we walked through the doors of the Boyd Law Building on day one. But in many others, the patchwork of different backgrounds and viewpoints that we encountered during our time here has undoubtedly contributed to a more vibrant and enriching legal education for us all. But it wasn't easy. Make no mistake about it, law school's hard. I mean, it's virtually impossible to play Candy Crush on your phone and take notes at the same time. And I'm not going to speak for anybody else in the room, but I gained about 1,000 pounds over the past couple of years. I'm probably going to be doing sit-ups until I pay off this crippling student loan debt. That's a long time. And don't get me started on networking. It's kind of been my own personal nightmare, although I'm pretty sure at this point I'm connected on LinkedIn with all the pizza delivery drivers in Iowa City. So at least I've got that going for me. It's been tough, guys, but like many others of us in the class of 2016, I was able to find the love of my life during law school. Our librarian, Ellen Jones's Candy Bowl, has been there for us. It's been there for us when we just didn't think we could go on. When we were stuck in those mandatory plagiarism seminars our first and second years, it was those little Reese's peanut butter cups that kept our blood sugars just high enough to make it seem like we were paying attention. And during those LAWR lectures about all those actual physical books that we will never open because we have the internet, it was those tiny bags of Skittles that reminded us to keep going because we're entering an ancient and respected profession. Of course, a lot of us were confused about how it ever existed before Google. But we had Skittles. But as difficult as law school has been, many of us realize, or at least they should realize, that this is just the beginning. That once we walk this stage today, our perspectives are going to change. Our perspective is the way we see the world, the way we process it and understand it. It isn't quite fluid, but it isn't set in stone either. I've found that it tends to shift over time or completely change when we're impacted by really important events or milestones in our lives. For example, I bet if you asked your graduate who was the first person to get called on in their class, they could tell you all the details of that harrowing moment in time. That first real class, and indeed that whole first semester, was terrifying for everyone. People were on edge. I remember who it was in my section. We were in property with Professor Galanis, favorite class, by the way. It was a morning class, so not a lot of us were very excited to be there. We started off with the introduction and the roadmap for the course. Then we jumped into the material. Before you knew it, it was time for a question. The professor looked around, glanced at the seating chart. For that brief period of time, we were all in the danger zone. And for what felt like years, you could hear a pin drop. Then his glance shot up from the seating chart into the audience as he said, "Miss Sargent." The collective sigh of relief from everyone, except Miss Sargent, was deafening. By the way, she killed it. By now, though, the prospect of getting called on just doesn't scare us anymore. Our perspective on law school classes has changed. Now, if a professor calls on us, we're either prepared, not likely, experienced enough to seem prepared, although we're not fooling anybody, or simply comfortable with the phrase, "I'll pass today." You know who you are. There are countless examples of ways that we've shifted our perspectives since beginning law school. But I want to share with you a much more profound shift in my own perspective that occurred a little over a month ago when a relative of mine lost his battle with cancer. I wasn't particularly close to him, but he received treatment here in Iowa City and periodically came here from Des Moines. Naturally, as the only person in my family residing in Iowa City, he would ask me to lunch or dinner when he came into town. So I went. Like I said, we weren't too close. We didn't see eye to eye on a lot of things. But without fail, every time he would come to town, he would ask, "Are you okay? Do you need anything from me? Need to borrow my truck? You want me to haul anything for you?" Didn't really hit me until after we lost him, but this guy was literally fighting for his life. And he was asking me if I was okay. He was concerned about me and wanted to help me. Now here I am, healthy, young, single, ladies, guy about to graduate one of the finest legal institutions in the country, and he's asking me if I need anything. After he passed, I heard story after story about his generosity and kindness, and that really resonated with me. As I contemplated the last 3 years of law school and what it's meant to me, I of course remembered the all-nighters, the on-campus interviews, and the stress of finals. But I also couldn't help but think about him and his legacy of putting others before himself. So as I prepare to walk across this stage, I'm reminded of some of the reasons I decided to come to law school, and I'm shocked at how different my mindset is now from when I started. Cell phones off, please. It's not really an earth-shattering revelation or anything, but I now understand that even though a lot of what we have done this last 3 years has been for ourselves, what we've really done is prepare for all those folks we will encounter in our lifetimes who will come to us for our advice, support, and guidance. For all those people who are going to come to us for help. Whether you're going to be a corporate lawyer who helps companies go public, a trust and estates lawyer who helps folks plan for the future, or a law professor who helps students have mental breakdowns and learn to think like a lawyer. They're going to be helping somebody to do something that they couldn't do themselves. And that, at least to me, is what this last 3 years has all been about. So as much as we've struggled and strained over the past 3 years to improve ourselves, but mostly our resumes, we must now shift our perspectives to how we're going to use what we've learned to help that budding conglomerate trying to take over the world one day, to help that elderly couple trying to plan for their family's future, or that accused person who's just looking for a little justice. We have to shift our perspectives from law student to confidant, from law student to advocate, from law student to champion, and from law student to helper. Because law school has been but 3 short years for us, but it's the beginning of a lifetime of helping others. Thank you.
I said they were great, didn't I? Thank you, Daniel, for an inspiring speech. I am now honored to introduce the 2016 commencement speaker, the Honorable Thad Collins. Judge Collins is the Chief Judge of the United States Bankruptcy Court for the Northern District of Iowa. He earned his undergraduate degree from Macalester College before matriculating at the University of Iowa College of Law. He's a member of our class of 1990 and one of our most loyal and dedicated alumni. Following graduation, Judge Collins served as a judicial law clerk to the Honorable Michael Malloy, also a graduate. He then practiced law with the firm of Pickens, Barnes, and Abernathy in Cedar Rapids before joining the court in 2010. Please join me in welcoming Judge Collins to the podium.
The law student speech was really great, except it gave me a little chill down my spine when he mentioned Friday the 13th and black cats. We've got a black cat that lives right across the street that I see every single day. So, off to an ominous start. Now, when I start a mediation, I always say to the parties, every single time, today is a day of promise and opportunity. And it's a day of promise and opportunity if you're ready to seize it. It's kind of the kicker on that. So my theme today is going to be seizing the promise and opportunity out there on the road ahead for the Iowa law grad. Graduation lends itself to lots of lofty talk of the road ahead and the promise and opportunity that's out there. It's a really unique spot. It sits in that gap between lawyer and law student, between end of formal education and beginning of professional life. So today what I'm going to try to do is offer some ideas about promise and opportunity on that road ahead in sort of a final law school lecture meets orientation to your new practice life. Now this is a big day, and this is a really grand setting. And when I say it's a grand setting, I'm not exaggerating. This Memorial Union has played host to the likes of Martin Luther King Jr., John F. Kennedy, George H.W. Bush, numerous other presidents, numerous other writers like Kurt Vonnegut, Maya Angelou, celebrities of sort like Tom Brokaw, Bono, the lead singer of U2, and renowned scientist Neil deGrasse Tyson. Duke Ellington played this room. This is a big room. This is a big deal. So now you're looking around going, okay, where's our Duke Ellington? Where's our JFK Jr.? No, you've got me, right? And it's fair to ask yourself why. Why do I have this guy? It's a fair question. And I'll tell you why. Because I'm one of these people. I'm a proud Iowa grad. And the truth be told, I'm a pretty average Iowa grad, and that's the truth. But I'm very proud of that education. I'm very proud of the time I've had at the University of Iowa. And I want to offer some thoughts that tie into the university, tie into my life here. But let's start with some words from the poet Walt Whitman. Walt Whitman is the subject of a quarterly journal published here at the University of Iowa, and we're very proud of that. In his Song of the Open Road, Walt Whitman writes, "Afoot and lighthearted, I take to the open road, healthy, free, the world before me. The long brown path before me, leading wherever I choose. I'm going to encourage you to embrace that optimism today. Embrace that optimism about that open road ahead. I think it's warranted. But I will say, I didn't have that same optimism as I sat here as a law grad 26 years ago. In retrospect, I should have. My career tells me so. I have had a wonderful career. I've had great clerkships with some of the best judges to ever wear the robe. I was in a big law, big city practice, and it was wonderful. I moved back to Iowa and had a wonderful trial practice, and I actually got to serve as a mediator. Now I've got this incredible job. I get to work with students like Roy Leaf and Peter Chalik as student externs. I get to hire a lot of Iowa grads as law clerks. It's really an amazing thing. And by the way, I'll just note that I found out today that I actually am in a kickboxing class with one of the law students as well. So, but it's great to be among young people who are coming out and looking at that road ahead, and I'm so privileged to be a part of it. Now, before you start thinking, boy, this guy's, maybe he has a little bit of a high opinion of himself now with all of his good fortune, let me offer you a story to kind of assure you that I remain really well-rooted. Recently, I made the mistake of bringing my daughter and my son to work. That was part one. And part two was allowing my law clerk and my student intern to show them around the building without me. So, as my law clerk and intern were doing what they do, they were going around and talking about the judge this and the judge that, and sounded like I was a really big deal. My daughter pipes in and goes, "Well, are you talking about my dad?" And they were like, "Well, earnestly not, yes, we are." And they just both burst out laughing. They went on to tell that you guys need to know he's really kind of a dork. And he's also a guy that's been in a lot of embarrassing situations. Let me tell you all about him. And you know how kids are, a little wild exaggeration never hurts. So I remain very well rooted and grounded and will for a very long time. During law school, even though I was average, I did get a little taste of what might be the opportunity out there. I got to extern for then bankruptcy judge Michael J. Malloy. Now, my beloved Judge Malloy and his recent Iowa grad law clerk, Mark Surrey, just made my experience fantastic. It meant a lot to me. Then my beloved Professor Bauer joined Team Collins, got on board to help me plod my path forward in bankruptcy law. But at graduation, I was sitting out there going, I'm still average, and I still have a kind of a hodgepodge resume. And because I was average, I put in my own mind some artificial limits and restrictive lines on where I thought my career could lead me. I just thought to myself, boy, I don't know, what's ahead after Judge Malloy? It gave me an anxious feeling. I was thinking, is somebody else going to see in me what Judge Malloy did? Is an average Iowa law student have anything out there? And I'll tell you, my answer to that it was an emphatic yes, but you might have some of those same questions today, especially as you say, is my education gotten me ready? Now, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. spoke right here 56 years ago, and he offers us a good way to measure what an education should do for us. Let me read what he had to say. Education must enable one to sift and weigh evidence, to discern the true from the false, the real from the unreal, the facts from fiction. The function of education, therefore, is to teach one to think intensively and to think critically. But we must remember that intelligence is not enough. Intelligence plus character, that is the goal of true education. The complete education gives one not only the power of concentration, but worthy objectives upon which to concentrate. The broad education will therefore transmit to one not only the accumulated knowledge of the race, but also the accumulated experience of social living. So how does your education measure up? Do you have enough? Are you ready to get out there and go for it? My experience tells me the answer is yes and no. Yes, because as you heard the dean recite, this is a fabulous law school. It really is. Stellar history, great faculty, wonderful tradition. But no is part of my answer because no formal education can really prepare you to tackle the unique realities of the law practice. So it's like this. We're talking about the open road ahead. You're ready to get on that open road, and you're ready to just start plodding down it. But to master it, you're going to need to be a lifelong learner. Be awake to those educational opportunities that are out there. They're going to be there all the time, and you're going to learn so much if you pay attention to them. That's where the opportunity will lie to really move forward and connect your life up to where you want it to be. Now, the content and quality of that education, it's not going to be up to the faculty. It's not going to be up to any curriculum. It's going to be up to you. You're going to decide what you decide is worthy of your time and attention. But I'm going to offer you just a few ways you might want to think about that education as you move forward. I'm going to give you 6 things that I think are kind of valuable pieces to think about as you piece that puzzle together. I think those things will help lead to the great opportunities that I've had if you take them and you run with them a little bit. The first one I'm going to tell you is be a thief. Yep, you heard me right. Be a thief. Be a thief of the very best things you see in other lawyers, in other writing. When you're watching and learning and you say, that's really good, think about taking it and make it yours. Now, I steal the thief idea from the renowned poet Marvin Bell, who was a longtime member of the Iowa Writers Workshop faculty here. He said, in response to a question about, what do you tell the beginning writers, these wonderful people that you produce in your program? You know, find your own voice or something like that? And he says, no, tell them, read like a thief. What you understand as originality is really just a mixture of influences on you. So be original. Read like a thief. The judges that I worked for, I noted how great they were. They really, in retrospect, taught me that. Watch this good lawyer. Watch what they do. Watch how the best do it. Make it your own if it fits you. But certainly think about it and think about how you'd approach a similar situation. My second piece of advice is don't travel that open road alone. Surround yourself with great people. Just look at the people that have surrounded my life that I've already mentioned. Professor Bauer, Judge Malloy, Mark Surrey, and in the audience today with me, supporting me yet again, is my beloved Judge David Hanson, who was my second boss. A dear man, a giant in the law, and a guy who taught me a whole heck of a lot. Now, my time with them was wonderful. Some people would say it's just a huge opportunity for me, or how do they say it today? Huge opportunity for me. Today, I look back and I say, yeah, that was some opportunity that I did not realize how great it was, but it really changed the entire arc of my career and my life. So I'm indebted to them, and I appreciate Judge Hanson and Professor Bauer being here and supporting me today as they've done throughout my career. But it makes a difference. With mentors and role models like that, how do you fail? It's just one of the ingredients you got to have. The other part of this is peer colleagues. I was blessed with great peer colleagues, law clerks, people in law firms and stuff throughout my experience that have really surrounded me and carried me forward. I'm going to use one night of my life as an example. Shortly after I graduated, I went out in Des Moines, Iowa with a group, and that group was Jane, Steve, Matt, Emily, Joe, and JJ. You think, well, yeah, good for you. The point is, now you know those people as Judge Jane Kelly, Judge Steve Colleton, both of the 8th Circuit, Judge Matt Johnson of the Minnesota Court of Appeals, who's been to the Iowa Law School, Joe Lilledahl, who's the permanent clerk for Judge Kelly, your own beloved Professor Emily Hughes, who I'm a huge fan of, by the way, and Judge John Jarvie, that's the JJ in there, United States District Judge John Jarvie. Some people mention him as one of the best trial judges in the nation. I'm not saying that as a bragging point. I'm just saying that's who I happen to be surrounded by. That's the kind of people that were trying to help me float my boat a little bit. Now, I do have a story to share from that night. It's actually a pretty good story. It's about one of my super smart colleagues, Matt Johnson. Matt and I went down to Des Moines. The 8th Circuit Conference was down there. And one morning, we discovered, wait a minute, we forgot to book a hotel room. So we looked around and we thought, uh-oh, I don't think there's anything available, big conference here, what are we going to do? Joanne Lilledahl, who we refer to as Joe, offered us the pull-out couch for the two of us to sleep on in the front room of her Embassy suite. All very harmless stuff, right? Joe's married, I'm married, Matt's a very moral guy, it's all very innocent. Next morning comes, Joe gets up for an early breakfast meeting, I follow her out not too long after that. Matt's kind of getting up a little late and the phone rings. So he thinks, well, what do you do? You answer the phone. So he picks it up. Hello? And on the other end is Joe's law school friend, and she's sort of puzzled. She says, is this Joe Lilledahl's room? And he says, Yes. And then there's a little bit of silence, and then on the other end of the phone, she goes, oh, is this Mike, Joe's husband? He says, no. And then she was like, okay, thanks, and hangs up the phone. We didn't all have cell phones that day, but she got a message to Joe's office and everywhere else, call me ASAP, we need to talk, right? So now, there is a practice pointer in here, and we'll just cover that real quick. A lot of times you tell your clients, give yes and no answers. If that's the answer, yes and no. You may want to qualify that with, sometimes you might want to add just a little extra to kind of fill out the scenario a little bit. That might help everybody understand it a little better. Now, I pick on Matt and have fun with him tonight, but it's just a story to tell you. He was young. We're all young. We had fun. We had a good time. He's one of the smartest guys out there and remains one of my great confidants today, just like the rest of these folks do. They're confidants, they're cheerleaders, they're sounding boards, they're people that I can go to for support when I need to think through my career, when I need to think through the challenges I have. They've always been there. It's a wonderful thing. In comparing notes with them, you learn an awful lot. So, great people are going to cross your path. Make them your own as best you can. And you know what? It's not just for the stories. It's for a lot more than that, but you're going to get some good stories. Before I leave this, I do want to thank Judge Kelly for being here to support me. She's here with her husband, Tom Lidd. And Tom, by the way, has written a book about a former Iowa law student, a guy named Niall Kinnick, by the way. Some of you may have heard of him. It's a great book, and I'd encourage you to look into it. I don't know, Tom, do you got some in your trunk out there today or parked out there? You might pick one up, or you pick it up at Prairie Lights. But, Tom has been a part of my support network as well, and been a friend to me, and it just tells you just kind of keep adding people and layers to it. You're going to have good people around you and help direct you the right direction. And I want you to pursue those great people, but also pursue great work. I mean, most of you have probably got something in mind that you're starting with, but the law is vast. That's my next point here. The law is vast, and there is so much opportunity to find something that might fit you. Don't just settle for something you don't like. If you get in and say, you know what, my interests that I'm really want to focus on are over here, move towards them. They might be right under your nose. They might be a couple steps away. They might be a transfer within your law firm. They may be within the law. They might be outside the law. We have a number of friends who've gone on to be CEOs of companies. They've gone on to be investment bankers, venture capitalists, you name it, teachers, lobbyists, consultants, and they're very happy in that practice. Discern where you want to be. Think about what's a fit for you, and make yourself, promise yourself that you go for that work and you go for something that you love. Now, the author David Brooks has recently written a book called The Road to Character. Maybe some of you have seen it. He says also be prepared to be summoned. And what he means by that is there might be a big societal issue out there or a big unmet need that you see and you say, wow, that's calling my name. Go for it. You might need to create your own opportunity. I had to do that. I had to create one of my own opportunities. I've mentioned mediation a little bit, and this is how it kind of went down. I was a trial lawyer. There's another trial lawyer that's a friend of mine, a mediator in this crowd, Steve Powell, and we both have thought a little bit about doing something beyond just trial work. We've both done some mediations. And I really wanted to put myself into the mediation world a little bit more to do that. I get a quote from Abraham Lincoln that sort of inspired me towards mediation. We all know Lincoln was a trial lawyer and a very good one. Lincoln once said, discourage litigation, persuade your neighbors to compromise whenever you can. Point out to them that the nominal winner is often a real loser in fees, expenses, and waste of time. As a peacemaker, the lawyer has the superior opportunity of being a good person. There will still be work enough for all. This inspired me to try to have those two careers, trial lawyer, mediator, and put them together. So when I told my law partners about my inspiration and then asked them to pay for the training, right, to get me trained as a mediator, their response was what the typical supportive law partners give you. Partner number one, who the heck would hire you as a mediator? Partner two, no, seriously, you got to answer that question. Who the heck would hire you as a mediator? And then he explained, you need to know that your audience, the people that have the cases, they're going to be experienced lawyers. They've tried a lot of cases. They've settled a lot of cases. You've got to be able to give that commercial to make that practice happen. So I was slightly discouraged, but then they went on and surprised me and said, but go ahead and do it. We'll pay for it. You go out and make whatever you can out of it. I did. It became a very wonderful part of my career. It was successful, and it was something that just really nourished me as a person, as a young lawyer. Now, my partners, when they saw that I was successful, they didn't immediately come in and say, wow, you just surprised me. They just smiled, nodded their head, because success to them meant the mediation bills were going out and the checks were coming in to pay the mediation bills. So that was success. Now, here's the lesson in that. Roy and Peter are going to like this because I do this all the time in chambers. I always teach by reference to the movies. So the movies here are as follows. I thought I was in the Blues Brothers. I'm on a mission from God, right? I'm inspired. My partners reminded me, no. This is a law firm. You're in Jerry Maguire, buddy. Show me the money. But it was a good lesson. It was a really good lesson. It said, pursue what you want, but be prepared to marry those aspirations and visions to the reality of the practice. So as you go out there and think about your career, go for what you want. Dismantle some of the barriers that you've put in your mind about it, if you have, and pursue the work you love, because it will nourish you, and be awake to the opportunities that are going to be sitting there in front of you. Now, the next piece, this is number 4, is create your own brand. Create your own brand. That's a hard thing for a young lawyer to do. Sometimes you think you have to be a certain way. I would say stir together all those elements that we're talking about, what you've seen from watching other lawyers, what you've picked up from your mentors, what you've gotten from conversations with your colleagues, what you've watched and seen as you discern what kind of work you want. Stir that all together and then mix yourself into it. Mix yourself in there and your brand's going to emerge. That's who you're going to be, and you've got to know who that is. Know its limits, know its strengths, embrace it, and know the people are going to be attracted to it. They're going to see authenticity, they're going to see a confident lawyer, and they're really going to like what they see. Now, as I was working through this with one of my law clerks, he said to me, Judge, it's a little puzzling. How am I going to stir your brand, which is Mr. Outgoing and extrovert, in with my brand, which is pretty reserved and quiet, and then on the other end still have something I can use? And so as we were working through that, Judge Kelly, who's on our floor, came down the hall, and she dropped in for some reason or another. We chatted with her for a couple minutes, and off she went. And then I thought, okay, well, what if we stirred in a little bit more Judge Kelly and a little less of me? And he thought about it for a minute. By the way, the right answer to that is, well, Judge, I couldn't stir you out of my equation. I mean, how could I possibly do that? My law clerk looks at me and he goes, Judge Kelly, right on. Yeah, stir in some Judge Kelly. But that was the right answer for him. He found somebody that matched up his role model for him that would work for him. And I think it really made him feel comfortable. So do that. As you create your own brand, I'd encourage you to stir in the concept of civility. You probably hear about that a lot, and it sounds like a platitude of some sort. Let me bring it down to what I think is reality. This legal system you're going into, it's not a system of documents, papers, writing, and argument. It's a system of people. You've got lawyer colleagues, lawyer friends, staff members in your law firm. You've got clients, jurors, and judges. Yes, judges are people too. We are all constantly battling the idea of how do you participate in an adversary system and still keep some notion of civility between the two of you, not just between the two of you, between you and whoever you're dealing with. It matters to me as a judge. It matters to other judges. I'll tell you that right now. It matters to other lawyers. When you're wondering where you're going to get your referrals from, other lawyers, they're going to decide based on who they like, who they want to hire as a mediator. That's going to be made based on decisions about who they've dealt with and dealt with effectively. You're going to have a situation, if you ever want to be a judge, frankly, you're going to need the support of your colleagues. And one of the things they're going to say is, who do I want to appear before? Who's a civil person that will treat me right? That's a big part of the equation. I didn't get asked what my grades were. I got supported because people said, I like the way you practice. I could see practicing before you. Think about that a little bit. It's an important part of the practice. Now, I've got a little story on that one too from my old law partner who said, as a young lawyer, I got a call from an older lawyer saying to me, hey, I need an extension of this deadline. I'm kind of caught in a bad spot. So the young lawyer that my partner was said, wait, this is an advantage for me. So he said, no, sorry, can't give you an extension, too bad, rules are rules. So the old lawyer says, okay, son, but just remember, the sun don't shine on the same hound dog's rear every day. And my partner was sort of taken aback. The older lawyer hung up, and then he thought for a few minutes, and the light bulb went on. Picked up the phone, called the guy right back, and say, you can have your extension of time. He realized then he's probably going to see that guy again. He might need a similar favor from him. He may need his support from him in the future. It's the right thing to do, and it started to help shaping his path forward. You don't have to be difficult to be successful. Now, as we move on to the last couple words of advice, the first one is be ready for tough times. I mean, that's not something that we want to say on a happy occasion necessarily, but it's reality. It is reality. Tough times are going to be there. Think about surviving them, and think about thriving after them. Just be prepared for that. A lawyer in our firm once joked, boy, the managing partner seems to think that if we really try hard enough, we all can be perfect. Don't fall into that trap. It's not going to happen. The reality is life happens, and life can be tough at times. We need to be prepared to meet that challenge. And when we meet that challenge, we be prepared to thrive in those circumstances. So I'd encourage you to think about that. It's the norm, not the exception. Be prepared to deal with it and move forward strongly through it. I'm going to share something personal about one of my challenges to use as an example. I suffer from depression. On one occasion, my depression really took me down into a dark, dark place, frankly. It surprised me. It surprised everybody around me. But I was blessed because I surrounded myself with great people. My wife, my friends, my extended family, and my work colleagues. And my work colleagues, really, that didn't even know me as much, were totally there for me. Everybody spoke with one voice and said, listen, get help. We are totally there for you, and we're going to continue to love you no matter what. Get help. I got help. I got treatment. It was a wonderful decision for me. I have a great life, not just a good life, a great life. But mental health is still part of my equation, and it's always going to be part of my equation. I talked about Walt Whitman a little bit. He talks about that very idea on that open road, traveling the open road. Whitman says, still, I carry my delicious old burdens with me. I carry them, men and women. I carry them with me wherever I go. I swear it is impossible for me to get rid of them. I am filled with them, and I will fill them in return. Delicious burdens might slightly overstate it for the way I feel about it, but the point's right on. I now look at my depression and then a later bout with prostate cancer as huge blessings in my life, huge blessings. You might think that sounds a little funny, but these experiences have given me an unbelievable opportunity to talk to people who are struggling, people who are terrified, people who are feeling desperate, and even, frankly, people who are thinking of doing some bad things. That's an enormous privilege, and I've had something to say to those people. That's a huge reward for me personally. So I just encourage you to think about where that fits in for you, and I want to leave you with a thought. If you ever find yourself at the end of your rope, there's nowhere to turn, call me, because I love getting those calls. You can get my number anyway, and I'll take it. But call me, I'll get you to some help, and that's a promise. Now, the last thing I want to tell you today is something you probably know in your heart already. It kind of gets us back to why we went into law to begin with. Seek out some cases of real justice in action. I mean real, palpable, clear-cut justice. I've seen those as a lawyer. They're wonderful. But I'm not going to tell you about my wonderful cases today. I'm going to tell you about my experience as someone who was a friend of someone terribly in need of justice. I had a friend of 30 years, disabled in a wheelchair. She frankly had a very tough life. It was physically difficult. She was a lonely person. Her crisis and need for justice came when she lost the one thing that she really had, the one thing she was proud of, the one thing she cherished. And that was her independence. She had worked so hard to live on her own. And then she ended up being, through a set of bad circumstances, ended up being involuntarily committed. And she remained under that commitment order against her will indefinitely. And I frankly, as a friend, lawyer and judge, I really didn't know where to turn. This was outside of my experience. So I turned to Professor John Allen here at the law school, who we've recognized today. And Professor Allen stepped in and helped me. He said, yeah, this woman's suffering an injustice. So he and his students over the next several semesters, this was a long time. It was probably, I don't know how many students, 4 students, a couple years of fighting this battle. They fought the battle, they fought it hard, but they were also helping out a really distraught person and being there for her. They were counseling her and bringing her along as the true counselor at law that we sometimes talk about, and I know we talk about it at the Iowa Law School. That was really, really important to her, but for me, what was inspiring was Professor Allen's thirst for justice, basically. He wasn't going to give up. Wasn't going to give up until we got that commitment order lifted, and it was lifted. It was an enormous personal victory for her, and I can't tell you how vindicated she felt. But this is not a happily ever after story. This is a story where she got her independence back, and she was beset by a series of very serious physical problems. She never lived on her own again. 3 weeks ago today, she died. But as we think about this and going forward, the reason I'm telling this story is as follows. She was a person who hardly was recognized even as a person by many people in our society. John Allen and his team, they not only recognized her, they took her under their wing and served her. They said, we're your servants. It was really a beautiful thing to watch. It was really a beautiful thing to see. The most important part of that was not the result they got for her. That was great. But what they really did for her is this. They said, you're a person that matters before the law. You're a person that matters as a human being. It was a wonderful thing. You're going to have some amazing opportunities as lawyers out there to do wonderful things like this. Take them. It might be tough. They don't pay usually, but the personal reward and the lessons you're going to learn are beyond what you can imagine. So let's wrap this up today with the words of the poet again, Walt Whitman on the Open Road. He provides me what's really my benediction for you today, as he says, from this hour, I ordain myself loosed of limits and imaginary lines, going where I list, my own master, total and absolute, listening to others, considering well what they say, pausing, searching, receiving, contemplating, gently, but with undeniable will, divesting myself of the holds that would hold me. So my wish for you today is a journey on that open road ahead that's filled with so much promise like the one Whitman describes. In particular, I hope you find and seize a career loosed of limits and imaginary lines, a career of your own fashioning, a career for you, for the world you live in, and rewarding for both. Thank you very much for having me here, and congratulations.
Thank you, Judge Collins. We come now to the most important part of today's program, the conferring of degrees. President Harrell, on behalf of the faculty of the College of Law, I am proud to present these candidates who have completed all the requirements for the degrees of Juris Doctor and Masters of Law as designated. Members of the class of 2016, please rise and remain standing.
By the authority vested in me by the Board of Regents, State of Iowa, I hereby confer on each of you the degree of Juris Doctorate of Masters or Masters of Law as qualified and designated. You may be seated. Congratulations. It's wonderful to be here with you to celebrate such a momentous occasion in your lives. I had the pleasure of coming out of a meeting in another part of campus today and look over there and see the dean and all of you getting your photos taken in front of the old cap. You asked me to join you. It's a wonderful time. We often talk about it as an ending, and it is, I'm sure. You all feel so glad to have the last 3 years behind you, but also as a new beginning of your lives and careers. And the one thing I want to make sure you all know, and we want you to come back and see us, and bring your joyous successes back to us. You're among family here. I also want to pause for a moment and thank our dean. I know this is a surprise to you, too, and the faculty as well. There were the 3 years ago, the world for law schools and law students was a tough one. And there were so many people that were giving advice to just take anybody in as a lawyer, into law school and increase the numbers. Or at the other extreme, downsize the faculty. And you did the right thing. You did the right thing by keeping the high quality, high standards, as well as the high quality faculty here. And this day is, I think, a momentous tribute to your leadership and to the entire faculties. Thank you for doing all that. So I just have a few final comments, and I'm going to ask our graduates to stand up once again in a moment, and then you're going to stand up once again and come on stage. But I am the husband of an attorney. We have 4 children that have all graduated and gone to graduate school, and every time I've gone to ceremonies like this, I've thought through the importance of the other people in the audience, and we've mentioned them. But these people at your back have been at your back for a long time. And I think just before we do anything else, I think it would be appropriate for all of us to stand up and just give everyone out here, the mentors, the family, the faculty, a huge standing ovation. So if you don't mind, please. Thank you. Thank you. Giving you some exercise here this morning. I don't think I need to emphasize the important role that lawyers have in our society. We live in a complex world today, and I believe that lawyers are among the most crucial and problem solvers in that world. They protect our economic system, ensure the peaceful resolution of private disputes, and safeguard the orderly transfer of public power. Last month, we celebrated the retirement of a wonderful member of the faculty, and ultimately the dean, and then ultimately the president of our university, Sandy Boyd. And Sandy probably knows better than at least I do the special place and obligation that attorneys have in our society. And in an address in 1982 entitled Our Values, Sandy said as follows: "Law is the means by which we and our fellow citizens formally stipulate certain conditions of our individual and joint lives. Two essential factors in our democracy are: 1, every individual is entitled to equal protection of the law, and 2, every individual is under equal obligation to uphold the law. Given these conditions, law is an effective means of advancing social justice," end quote. I think he is so right. For over a century and a half, the Iowa Law School, the oldest, I mind you, west of the Mississippi River, has blazed a path of progressive innovation and excellence. Graduates, you have been central to the excellence of this university while you've been here, and your future accomplishments will always be part of this proud legacy. Once again, congratulations, good luck, best wishes, and all the wonderful things you're going to accomplish moving forward. We're very proud of you. Go Hawks. Thank you. Of course. You get this one, I'll get that.
Okay. Thank you, President Harrell. That was a little bit of a surprise to me. I thought I had seen his speech. I am now going to ask the law graduates to come forward to be introduced by Professor John Mark Stensvag and to receive their doctoral hoods from Professors Emily Hughes and Todd Pettis.
Jared Stephen Adam. Ned Adams. Mohammed Sarhan Al-Sarani. Megha Amarnath. Daniel Emmert Anderson. Kwesi Dabo Atokra. Trista Marie Bicey. Dylan Jonathan Besser. Patrick Bigsby. Matthew Allen Blumenreich. Michael Bry. Queen Nui Bui. Lucas James Carney. Peter Joseph Chalik. Eric Allen Checketts. Paul Kim Choi. Kyle Custer. Brittany Marie Davila. Patrick Dittmer. Keisha Douglas. Persephone Eglain. Becky Elliott. Jillian Evans. Joshua David File. Victoria Ann Felt. Kyle Peter Furden. Eric Nicholas Fisher. Robert E. Fitzgerald. Hannah Rose Fordyce. Adam Russell Forsman. Alexandra Claire Galbraith. Jeremiah Kevin Geffey. Vincent Stephen Geis. Thomas John Golson. Sham Goswami. Daniel Goff. Colin Patrick Grace. Charles William Gustafson II. James Frederick Hansen. Matthew Burke Harden. Ann M. Harrison. Jack Hathaway. Stowe Heiderscheit. Calissa Ann Holdcraft. Eugene Daniel Hummel. Elliot Jensen. Mitchell Kang. Allison Florence Canny. Dakchul Kim. Seong Hyun Kim. Y.T. Kim. Jacob Vinton Klein. Jared Knight. Adrian Sistoff Kowalski. Stephanie Lynn Kraft Sheely. Roy Ryan Leaf. Alex Jacob Levin. Lee R. Fay. Lee Young. Alexander Morris Lodge. Denitza Valerie Loya. Robert Marchant. John McCarthy. Molly McDonald. Jessica Lee McNamara. Daniel J. Olinghouse. Emily Michelle Papp. Thomas M. Patton. Hannah Eliza Posen. Crystal Renee Pound. Sean Joseph Powell. Sigrid Kar Ranu. Malvika Rowell. Jeffrey Paul Richter. John Allen Richter. Ryan M. Rickey. Sarah Ann Sargent. Allison Ann Schmidt. Catherine R. Seaton. Carolina Servine. Tyler J. Smith. Hao Yuan Sung. Alexis Steele. Christina L. Updegraff. Imelda Caranya Ureño. Suzanne Vipe Olson. John Joseph Whalen. Stephanie Marie Wiederin. Shelby Wood. Xiao Xiao. Chen Hao Zhong. Yi Ju. Alp Zora. Mathilde Botti. Javklan Yaramdorch.
All right, one more time. Let's applaud this great class. Before we close, I am charged to add a few words of farewell to the newest alumni of the Iowa College of Law. The late President John F. Kennedy observed, "Certain other societies may respect the rule of force. We respect the rule of law." You have been prepared to be guardians of the rule of law and to fulfill the promise inherent in the Iowa state motto, "Our liberties we prize, and our rights we will maintain." As lawyers, you will be charged to protect and defend our liberties and rights, to uphold the Constitution, and to pursue justice in all you do. A license to practice law is powerful. I charge you to use it wisely. Without doubt, you will face adversity in your professional lives. No one has ever said the practice of law is easy. But Justice Sandra Day O'Connor would tell you, as lawyers, we are entrusted with work worth doing. And she says that is the path to happiness. As you leave the College of Law to take up this path, I am obligated to remind you that you were prepared for this noble calling, the practice of a learned art in the public interest in a public law school. Farmers in their fields, the cashier at your local Hy-Vee, the people of Iowa contributed to the cost of your legal education. Today, when the celebrating is over, I ask you to begin thinking seriously about how you will pay it forward. The need is great, the options are many, and I know you will choose well. On this joyous day, my wish for each of you is that you fulfill Justice Holmes' vision to live greatly in the law. On behalf of your teachers and the staff and the rising 3L students who long to sit right where you are right now, I offer our affection, our admiration, and our congratulations. The 2016 commencement exercise is now adjourned. After the recessional, please join us for a reception at the Boyd Law Building.